The dramatic removal of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro by the United States has sent shockwaves far beyond Latin America. And one of the biggest losers may be China. For Beijing, Venezuela was not just another partner. It was a strategic foothold in the US's own backyard. China had backed Maduro politically, financially, and diplomatically for years, even as Washington imposed harsh sanctions and tried to isolate his regime. Now, with Maduro gone and the US signaling it wants to run Venezuela's oil industry, China is being forced to rethink its Latin America playbook. So, why does this matter so much to Beijing? First, oil. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, and China has been its biggest crude buyer and largest creditor. Oil accounts for about 95% of Venezuela's export earnings, and Chinese refiners relied on heavily discounted Venezuelan crude to diversify supplies. While Venezuelan oil made up only about 4% of China's imports, it was cheap, flexible, and strategically useful, especially for producing bitumen used in construction. Second, money. Between 2007 and 2015, China lent Venezuela more than $60 billion in oil-backed loans, the largest Chinese financial exposure anywhere in Latin America. Although most of that debt has reportedly been repaid, around $12 billion is still outstanding. After Maduro's ouster, Chinese regulators reportedly asked banks to urgently review their Venezuela exposure, a sign of real anxiety in Beijing. Third, geopolitics. China had elevated ties with Venezuela to an all-weather strategic partnership in 2023. Caracas openly backed Beijing on Taiwan and Hong Kong, while China shielded Maduro from Western pressure. The sudden US intervention is therefore a diplomatic embarrassment, especially since Maduro had met a senior Chinese delegation just a day before his capture. Now comes the uncomfortable question for China. Does the US action set a precedent? Some analysts wonder whether Washington's decisive move in Venezuela could be cited as a template in future crises, including Taiwan. But here, the comparison breaks down quickly. Any Chinese military move against Taiwan would carry vastly higher risks. Severe Western sanctions, possible US military intervention, and massive disruption to global semiconductor supply chains. In fact, officials in Taiwan reportedly see Maduro's capture as a deterrent, not an encouragement. A reminder of how quickly regimes can collapse when confronted by US power. For now, China is unlikely to confront the US directly over Venezuela. It has no security commitments there, and Beijing tends to avoid military entanglements far from home. Instead, it will likely absorb the loss, protect what assets it can, and quietly recalibrate. But the bigger picture is clear. Latin America is becoming a sharper battleground between the US and China. With Washington reviving the Monroe Doctrine and Beijing expanding its global footprint, Venezuela may be just the opening chapter in a far larger strategic contest. And for China, the message is uncomfortable but unmistakable. Influence built on loans and oil deals can disappear overnight when hard power enters the equation. With Farhan Khan, Bureau Report, India Today Global.